Let me say namaste on behalf of the UN in India as a representative of the Secretary General. Mujhe aap sabse milkar bahut acha laga. Very, very pleased to see so many energetic faces at this point. And, dear friends, I think it's no secret that fashion brings joy to our otherwise drab human lives. It's an opportunity for creativity, an opportunity for personal expression, for cultural expression. In short, it's very much linked with identity, human identity, and livelihoods, business, incomes, farmers, creators, producers. At the same time, as Samir mentioned, we have to be honest that presently the industry in its current forms is unsustainably feeding the triple planetary crisis: climate change, biodiversity loss, pollution. And now in today's age of fast fashion, something like 3/5 of clothing is thrown away, discarded within a year of purchase. The average person is now buying 60% more clothes than they were just 15 years ago. I'm not talking about 300 years ago, 15 years ago. And keeping those clothes only half as long. So this is the fast fashion problem that we have. 35% of the microplastics found in the ocean come from the laundering of synthetic fibers. And on and on and on. But the good news is that sustainable fashion can and is beginning to drive progress towards the SDGs across its incredibly expansive value chains. And I'm very proud and pleased that the UN has been able to partner with Arelan, with the Lakme Fashion Week, here in India, originating the idea of the Circular Design Challenge. This partnership has been instrumental in empowering fashion designers and entrepreneurs in the industry to showcase circular innovations, to push the boundaries, to build a Jan Andolan, a mass movement of sustainable fashion. And our partnership with Arelan, with Lakme Fashion Week, is now in its 6th year. I'm pleased to say that it's already gone global, international, bringing in design houses from Paris and Milan and these places together with India and other countries in the region. Truly thrilling. And we happen to have the competition, the catwalk, the international catwalk at UN House here in Delhi not too long ago. So through these incredible designs that you will become accustomed with, we see that we can bring together fashion and sustainability, life passion, life force, and a livable planet. We can deliver a prosperous future for our children, and we can look good at the same time. That's the good news. So thank you so much, and there's no better place to be having this conversation, actually the conversation of the last 3 days, and this one right here and now, than in India, which is increasingly a force for good and for the Sustainable Development Goals in the world. SDGs दुनिया में मुमकिन होंगी क्योंकि इंडिया में मुमकिन होंगी. Thank you very much. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
Let me invite the Group Vice President for Reliance Brands, Jaspreet Chandok, to say hello. Jaspreet.
Thank you, Samir. I want to grow up and be introduced as a diva as well, like Rahul, one day. I am also the head of the Fashion Week in India. So we get the opportunity to do great things at the Fashion Week. And I think what we are most proud of is discovery. And we are so glad that today we'll be presenting 3 of our discoveries at different ages of their life cycle to you. So we have our young discoveries from the Circular Design Challenge, and Shombi spoke about the Circular Design Challenge, so I don't want to repeat that part. And Rahul, in fact, just for your reference, Rahul, 16 years back, 17 years back, 2006, was a discovery from the Fashion Week platform. We run a program called the Gen Next program, and Rahul was one of our discoveries from there as well. And we are immensely proud of the work that he's doing on a global scale now in fashion and in sustainability. Now, what's interesting about sustainability in India is that it's very differentiated from a conversation anywhere across the world. There is sustainability where we talk about environment, but sustainability in India is also about people. It's about craft, and Rahul's going to spend a lot of time talking about it. But I think as the Fashion Week, one of the things that we want to do is be a focal point of all these conversations. And one of the things that we've realized about sustainability is that we can discuss it as much as we want within a room. We spend a lot of time talking to retail CEOs, but unless you change consumption patterns with consumers, you will never make perceptible change. So a lot of work that we do is actually working towards changing consumption cycles. And I think those are the things that will make a significant change over a period of time. I'd like to thank Samir for giving us the opportunity to present some of the work that we're doing. I am always thankful for the partnership that we have with the United Nations in India. And anybody, any one of you, if you want to reach out and know more about the initiatives that we're doing across the country and across the world, I have my teammates, Darshana and Amanda, who lead the sustainability business for us and actually do all the work. I'm just the pretty photo op. Please do reach out. Thank you for the laugh. Yeah. Appreciate it. Didn't tank completely. Thank you and have a nice evening.
Great. So I think it's time to introduce our speakers, in fact, to invite them to speak to us. Let me invite the first speaker this evening, and I hope you're mic'd up and ready. Anish Malpani, founder of Without by Ashia, is dedicated to transforming waste into value through deep tech and fair redistribution, prioritizing the empowerment of waste pickers in the supply chain, 11 years of experience, and is the winner of the Circular Design Challenge 2023. Secured a deal on Shark Tank, propelling his brand's impact and reach. So, Mr. Shark Tank, the stage is yours.
Did you know that this packet of chips is what's in between your after party and my talk? So I promise that I will try to keep this exciting because everyone's tired after 3 days of dialogue. But on a serious note, did you know that your favorite packet of chips is considered impossible to recycle? It's because it contains many different types of plastic, metal, paper, different types of materials fused together. And it's called multi-layered packaging, or MLP. It's also very inconsistent. So your chips packet is different from your chocolate wrapper, is different from your Tetra Pak. And that's why it's impossible to recycle. So much so that less than 1% of this kind of plastic waste is recycled globally. It's honestly the worst. But for the past 2 years, we in our tiny lab in Pune, Maharashtra, have been working on this problem, and we found a way. Wait, maybe it's not a good way, guys. So our patent pending process takes the multi-layered plastic and chemomechanically extracts building blocks and raw materials from it. We then convert these building blocks into high-quality materials. And what's unique about our process is that the little MLP that is actually recycled is mainly burnt for energy or burnt for fuel or mixed with cements to make bricks or road, which are all end-of-life solutions which don't really extend the life of this material. But because we extract materials from waste, our new material, which is recycled, is more recyclable than the original MLP. It's of higher quality, it's highly consistent, it's toxin-free, and it has a lower carbon footprint than virgin materials. So anyway, we made this material, and it was very good, but we realized we couldn't sell the material because when somebody buys material, they buy tons. And we have an 800 square foot lab, so we can't produce tons of materials. We're like, hey, maybe we'll go up the supply chain and we'll make products. So in February of last year, we made the world's first recycled sunglasses from impossible recycled packets of chips. And thank you. And these sunglasses, this is how they're designed, right? The frame, which is the frame that I'm wearing as well, is made up of 100% recycled plastic. We don't add any virgin plastic to it, but we do add 10% additives. The lenses are UV polarized, and you'll see that there's a small QR code in all the sunglasses that we have. This QR code, if you scan it, tells you the story of how these sunglasses were made. It tells you that one sunglass is made from 5 packets of chips, why this is the worst kind of waste, who are the former waste pickers who worked on this, how their lives have improved, where this waste came from, that it came from this small scrap shop in Pimpri Chinchwad run by 12 to 14 women who form a waste picker collective. And this, you'll hear this waste picker word a lot, and it's very important because in India, the waste problem is way more complex than just an environmental issue. In India, we have close to 4 million waste pickers who live multidimensionally poor lives. They work in waste without PPE, sometimes with their children. They're low-caste migrant workers who have a life expectancy that can be as low as 39 years of age. It's a shitty occupation. So if you're making a solution, if you're creating a solution in the waste management space, you have to involve the informal sector. So even we've built our process in such a way that 50 to 75% of our recycling process can be run by former waste pickers, who we formalize into our supply chain, give them dignified labor, their incomes increase by an average of 2x, they get health insurance, and a weekend. And what's great is that these guys work right alongside scientists and managers and engineers making this happen. But guys, we're not just making sunglasses. Sunglasses will not solve the waste problem and the waste picker woes, but it's a strong proof of concept that you can take impossible to recycle plastic waste, convert it into high-quality virgin-like materials and products like sunglasses with 70% gross margins, while propelling waste pickers into better livelihoods. So what are we trying to build? The business model that we're building is a fully integrated recycling center that's decentralized, that takes not just packets of chips, but all plastic waste, converts it into high-quality materials and products, while empowering waste pickers into better livelihoods and creating a financially viable solution because charity is hard to scale. So we can sell sunglasses, but the long-term goal is to sell materials to manufacturers to replace virgin plastic with recycled or sustainable materials as much as possible. And then to license this technology to across India, across the world, and really make change happen at a deep level. And in that, we're truly an impact-first startup. We're not doing this to make money. We're doing this to solve social and environmental problems. We've even amended our company bylaws to legally bind us to our impact. Our impact is small right now because we're focused on depth, because as impressive as large numbers are, you can give 100,000 waste pickers a training course for an hour, that's not going to change their lives. We believe in depth and then eventually scaling that depth. Today, we have 9 waste pickers we have formalized and whose incomes have increased by 3x. And they have health insurance. We've upskilled 12 waste pickers. We've given a bunch of scholarships to the children of waste pickers. We pay a premium for this waste that has no value. We've only diverted 1,000 kilos of MLP, which is not a lot, but the idea is depth. Obviously, I'm not going to be happy with 1 ton of waste and 10 waste pickers. Our goal is to scale this depth across India and the other developing world and the developed world. And that's the ambition, and change takes time. So yeah, we imagine a world where all waste is a resource, and all waste pickers have graduated to better livelihoods, and we're just getting started. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anish, and wish you all the best. Let me now invite the second presenter this evening, Ashita Singhal. Ashita Singhal is the visionary behind Paiwan, a pioneering upcycling textile studio launched in November 2018. With a keen eye for beauty in the overlooked and unwanted, Ashita embraces the philosophy of adding value by repurposing forgotten pieces. Ashita leads the charge in creating meaningful textiles using handcrafted techniques such as handloom. Ashita, there you are. And you have a mic with you? Great. Please join me on stage.
Hi everyone, I'm Ashita Singhal. I'm a weaver, designer, and a social entrepreneur. I joined the fashion industry in 2016, not knowing much about it, just being attracted by the facade of it. And sooner, just in my first session in the design school, we were a batch of 30 students, and we were asked to create a garment. And within 3 hours, the entire floor was filled with textile waste. And, and in that moment, I realized that I cannot be associated with this industry any longer. And that was just the third day in my design school. So I started doing my research, and then I found that fashion industry is the second largest polluting industries in the world. And then I started doing my more, when I dig deeper into my research to find sustainable ways of producing garments, the solution came out to use local materials. So being a Delhi girl, when I looked around, I saw this image of a landfill that we have in New Delhi, and I was like, okay, let's start from there. So during my internship with a conscious design label, I actually understood the problem of textile waste in the fashion industry. No matter how fashion designers are conscious enough for whatever, they don't have enough resources or infrastructure to deal with their own scrap. So I developed a collection out of it for my graduation project, and I won a grant of 25,000 US dollars in the US to set up my studio, Pevand. Pevand Lagana is a local common phrase in India, which means to patch or repair. In this global context of sustainability and this conversation, where we are trying to find the next big idea, we often overshadow what our ancestors have given us. So Indians have always been sustainable in their ways. We have always followed sustainable practices. So through Pevand, we just wanted to look back in terms of moving forward. Through Pevand, we are weaving a conscious future by upcycling fashion waste into meaningful textiles and high-quality products. We follow a circular design and a circular economy model. So we are procuring waste from design houses, fashion brands, exporters, and a lot of other people, and we repurpose it through our process. We make fabrics out of it. We sell the upcycled fabric back to the designers so that they can create sustainable range for their clientele. At the same time, we have our own label, and it just keeps going on. It's a never-ending process for us. And fashion industry follows a very linear method of business at this point. The process we follow is quite simple and transparent. We procure the waste, we segregate it as per different color and fiber type. We then cut it into strips, and then we weave it on handloom. And we also do hand embroideries, where instead of threading the needle with virgin yarn, we thread it with textile strips and embroider it on sustainable or natural material fabrics. So just to give you an idea, these kind of textiles, these are some of the textiles that we make. We believe in creating art because we believe the best way to increase the life cycle of a product is to fall in love with it. No matter whatever you buy in terms of sustainable products and all, if you're not in love with it, you cannot keep it for the longest time. You cannot keep it in your wardrobe for the longest time. So these are some of the pieces that we have upcycled. This is hand embroidered. Under Pevand, we run this initiative called Consciously Together, where we are collaborating with design houses to create a bigger social and environmental impact. In the last 5 years, we have collaborated with over 60 design houses and co-created collections with them and given them, repurposed their textiles into new fabrics. Thank you. So when we started working with waste, we ended up getting everything in terms of textile waste. And very recently, we launched a footwear collection with this brand called OCD, where they had given us their leather waste, and we have upcycled it on handloom and created footwear with them. These are some of the recognitions that we have received in the past. Coming to the impact, in the last 5 years, we have upcycled more than 30,000 kgs of waste. Since we work with handloom weaving and hand embroideries, we we are not dependent on energy for our production. So we're a carbon negative company. We don't use any chemicals or fertilizers in our process, so which essentially means a black colored waste will create a black fabric, a white waste would create a white fabric. We often mix the colors together to create unique textiles. And approximately, to produce 1 kg of cotton, 10,000 liters of water is consumed. So with every kg that we are saving, we are also saving 10,000 liters of water. At Pevon, the aim is to keep the artisans first in our company. So we always believe in giving them the long due recognition and reviving their clusters by introducing this waste as their raw material. Thank you.
Now it's my pleasure to invite Rahul to join us on stage. So let me invite Rahul Mishra, the celebrated fashion designer, the big man from Paris. His brand's known all over, dresses kings and queens. Rahul, please join me on stage. By the way, I thought that I would get one of his creations for this evening, and I'll parade down this stage on that. But they didn't have something that would suit my rather slow fashion style. Anyways. Rahul, tell me a little bit about yourself. Why did you become a fashion designer? What triggered the idea that you wanted to pursue this as a profession? How young were you? When did it strike you that this is your journey in the days ahead?
So, I come from a very small village in UP. It's called Malhausi. And my first 10 years were there. And I always say, unfortunately, I was good at studies. So my father wanted that I should become a doctor or an engineer, or probably an IAS.
A government officer.
Yeah. And so I had done my graduation with science. But it's just that I never enjoyed that. I always wanted to be an artist, maybe a journalist one day or something. But anything but, science. So I had to run away from my home. And I reached my sister's house, which was in Ghaziabad in NCR.
Rahul, let me turn back to you again. So please repeat your answer. Came from a small town. Your father wanted you to be an engineer, doctor, government servant, and like every other child, you didn't want what your parents wanted you to be. Let's start from there.
So actually, my beginning was very humble. Because of family circumstances, our father was not staying with us for first 10 years. So, the village where I come from, I hardly saw in first 10 years any kind of electricity over there. Mm-hmm. And it was a beautiful time, I must say. First time I saw maybe a bus or train when I was 10-year-old. So it was a very strange thing. And my first school in village was 7 rupees a month, school fee. My last college was Milan Institute of Marangoni, where the fee is close to 50 lakhs a year. So, I had been very lucky. So in that way, I had to run from my home to stay with my sister's house over here. My father did not speak to me for 1 year. Then I applied for NIFT and NID. I got through both. And my first choice was filmmaking, not fashion. So I wanted to be a filmmaker. And when I reached NID, my father still always said, actually my aunt funded my first year of education at NID. He was completely against it. And then after that, when he understood it, he used to say, oh, he's doing design engineering from NID.
So he should tell his friends that.
Yeah.
That's nice. Listen, how does he feel, or how did your parents feel when you became this big star in Paris? Right? How did you feel, by the way? I mean, what was your response when you were discovered 2006 and you started your journey, had that meteoric rise a few years ago? You were in the big league. How did your family respond to that?
I think I remember.
Do they still call you an engineer?
No, it changed a bit. 2006, because Lakme Fashion Week, my father came to see my show, first show. And I remember Sunil Shetty was there, the actor. He said, "Your son is wonderful, बहुत talented hai." And from that day, he stopped calling me engineer.
So it took a Sunil Shetty to get a certificate of approval.
Yes.
Okay. No. So Rahul, now tell me something about the issue that we want to discuss today. Sustainable fashion. And we were discussing about its impact both in terms of emissions, water consumption, questions around job generation, employment generation in countries like ours where we struggle with livelihoods. Fast fashion removes lots of workforce. How did you start thinking about sustainability? And for you, what did sustainability really mean? Sustainability is a big spectrum of issues and could be described in multiple ways. How did you approach sustainability and why?
I think it also comes from the education, because when you study in Ahmedabad, NID Ahmedabad, and I always remember late Professor MP Ranjan, who was my design guru. And he used to take us to Kocharav Ashram, giving us power of Khadi, what Mahatma Gandhi has done in terms of, when you look at politics of it, when you look at employment-related issues, when you look at all the issues, how he solved with one single tool, which was, hand-spun, hand-woven fabric. So it was an ID time, and my first project was with Handloom Textiles of Kerala. So it was a first classroom project, and the goal was to create, different usage of the handloom textile, because nobody was wearing handloom at that point in time. How do you create new product? And those products which can become fashionable and people can use them quite often. So I started with that. From Kerala, I've worked with multiple clusters all this while. Orissa Handloom in Dindori, or we talk about, there was a project which I did with Taj Hotels. It was about using Pochampalli weavers in Ikat. And then when we look at Chanderi, Maheshwari, all these fabrics. So over the period of time, I realized that the slowness is the most beautiful thing. Because if, sustainability is something almost like 5 blind people, they have never seen an elephant, or maybe because they're blind. Whatever part you touch, you see this is what sustainability is. Somebody says looks like tail, somebody says it's like trunk, is what sustainability. So in my limited thought process and knowledge, I really feel if one single word which can define sustainability is rhythm. And this I learned from my daughter Arna, who is 8-year-old now. From her first school, she went to Waldorf system. They always talked about rhythm. Because rhythm is not just related to music. It's just, if you're growing cotton, and if you do a cyclic farming or rhythmic farming, where you also create pulses, you create different kind of farmings, and then again grow cotton with a lot of patience, you will always going to have sustainable processes in that. So a lot of times our hunger or greed, or even I would say our speed, creates an imbalance. So I always believe like anything which is done with the human hand or pace of human hand is inherently sustainable, because you're following natural pace. Often machines are overpaced as compared to rhythm of nature. So as a brand, what we work with, like today, we employ close to 1,500 people all across India. And one of the most important things which I really feel is like what made us what we are is, before 2012, I used to only work with handloom because I never had a reason why shall I touch embroideries in my life. But I went to a workshop in Gandhinagar in Mumbai, and the workshop was really bad. Like I do not know if recently we have seen an article in New York Times where they talk about the global couture supply chain, how bad these places are where people live. It might be 10 by 10 room where 20 of them would sleep, work, would keep everything. Even from nature call, they have to walk for half a kilometer. There's no clean drinking water. Who is going to take shower every day? And these are hot and humid conditions of Bombay. So what we started a process called reverse migration 2014, where I always talk about master karigar Afzal Zariwala. So Afzal Bhai started this entire thing with me. And when we were researching about it, we got to know that there are more than 200 people from the same village or area around the village. They all migrated to this slum. And what happens, like even when you look at in India, our drivers, our embroiderers, cleaners, tailors, the biggest dream what they have is where they are born to build their pakka house, their concrete house to their place where they come from.
Correct.
So they can the bestest to the society that they are doing well in their life. So Afzal Bhai has done the same thing. When we moved to Mumbai in 1984, by 1995 he built a beautiful house over there, but the house was shut for 15 years after that, 20 years I would say. And now Afzal Bhai operates from the small village called Bonpur with 200 people who have reverse migrated with him to the village, and they all contribute to create fashion, what we showcase in Paris, and whatever we do with that. They all are sitting in a village and they are working on power of hand. They don't need machines, they don't need any external tool. And one more thing what it does to village economics, like for example, if I'm paying this team 1 crore rupees as a salary for a certain period of time, that 1 crore rupees, most of these people, they spend in the village. So what it does, it keeps that vegetable vendor also in village. He doesn't migrate to another slum area in city. It also makes sure that milk guy,
So the
the
economic
gas
development
guy.
takes place.
So probably the 1 crore brings about 10 crores in circular economics over there. So that is something which is really, really beautiful. I found fashion or design as a tool is so powerful. If you can create, so it's again, this philosophy is partly borrowed from William Beveridge and also Mahatma Gandhi, where they say, I always say for a brand, instead of seeing primary objective as consumption, we seek to create a system that explores power of participation from people.
Rahul, how common is this now? Is this still you as an exception, or do you think people like you are now beginning to change others into thinking in same ways? How common is this thinking?
You know, what is heartening to see, we just had 2 of these wonderful examples over here.
Yes.
And they are doing such a great work. So you have to find your reason to do what you're doing. So, what we started at the point of now, I must also say this to you. Recently, we took Afzal Bhai to Paris for our last couture show. We called it We the People, and he was there. I asked him, first time we applied for a passport and all that, I asked him, you know the process. And I was amazed to hear that his daughter is studying in London right now. So an embroiderer who has never gone to a school in his life, beyond primary education, can afford to send his daughter to study wherever she wants to study, whatever she wants to do. I think this is real power of fashion, which I've experienced. And I'm very, very grateful for people who consume, especially slow fashion. And also the way we also look at, because I must also share here, often when we look at sustainability, our dialogue becomes limited just to material, which is definitely a very, very important thing. Because material is what is visible to our naked eyes. We can easily say, oh, this is what is pollution, this is what is polluting everything. I think material is what? That obviously is 99% of all the problem. But how we do things, that is even more important. So that is where slowness has to be brought about. The pace of machine or consumption, I don't think, as we say that we need 6 more planets like Earth to be able to, even looking at today's consumption rate. And then what is why? What drives you actually to take that call? So that's how.
So now there are 2 questions, and then I'm probably going to, if some of you want to pose a question, I'm going to bring you in. I think Ayode, I'm going to bring you in, and maybe someone wants to come and just try and get my attention. I can't see you because it's dark there, but you can walk to the mics and pose questions. But just 2 more from my side. One, what is it that attracts your work to folks in the fashion capitals of the world? And they honor you for that. What is it about your work that really attracted them? And does the sustainability element and the way you visualize work itself, is it playing some part in it?
I think often as a designer, I get a lot of credit for a community work. This is definitely a community work, like 20, almost 1,500 of us put together. What is real strength, which I really feel, how all of us are able to think and concentrate on one single idea. So often that idea may be my own dream, my own personal experience, but how all of us come together and feel excited about it. So that is what is very, very rare, I would say. And I'm very, very honored, when we get to showcase, on day one of Haute Couture right after Christian Dior, and when President Macron invites us to his Elysee Palace, all these things are wonderful. I really find, when I look back my early childhood, when I look at the time which I'm living today, but ultimately everything boils down to the community, the power craftsmen which India has. And also I really feel when you look at sustainability, I often go and also talk to students in France or anywhere in the world, always say you have to find your own way, because the biggest disservice which anybody can do when we start defining sustainability in one common idea around the world. Sustainability is often related to a small place, maybe a city has got a different kind of problem. It's all about addressing problem, trying to find solutions, which solutions where we look at material sustainability, environmental sustainability, and overall India kind of country, we need to look at cultural sustainability also. Because often a lot of these global big brands, they have appropriated a lot of, African symbols as part of their logos without giving credits. So, in that way also, I think when we look at sustainability, I think cultural along with environmental becomes really important.
So the appropriation of some of your own forms, cultural forms, is something that you also need to be aware of. That unless you can brand it and bake it and grow it, it's something that could. No, but on this particular issue, what about the trade? What about the crafts people? Because they are also struggling with the coming in of machines and the supermarkets and a mechanized form of production of fashion. The traditional crafts, the handicrafts, is that something that also motivates you to actually, create new forms or rather new markets for them and new forms of employment for them?
So I often say this, like, for example, if I'm a designer, fashion designer, if I think about an idea which I want to put together on the garments, easiest for me to digitally print it. Once you digitally print it, it creates half an hour job for the same outfit. When you create the same thing on printing or screen printing, it might take 50 hours a job. Machine embroidery might take 75 human hours a job. But as you start slowing down the process of hand embroidery, the job creation potential becomes 5 to 10,000 human hours. I think this is where the true power, true unlock for slow fashion is, when we're talking about 1.4 billion population within India, when actually 45 million is a number which they say are actual craftsmen. So, in that way, I think as a creator, when you come from India, there's a lot of responsibility also, because I often say this in Paris also, as a designer, I don't have a choice not to use hand embroideries. Because if my every collection makes sure that those 1,500 people, which is growing every year, their dreams get fulfilled. Like Afzal Bhai, whose daughter right now is studying in London. So, and not necessarily their children have to practice what they are doing right now. So I think craft can very much lie in museums if it is not helping craftsmen.
Okay, so my final point, and if I don't see a hand, I can see lots of hands. Okay, my final point. I'm now. Let's take the responsibility on us. You're a jury member of the Circular Design Challenge, of the competition. What role do these competitions play? That's one part. And second, what could folks who are outside of this industry directly, let's say, those who host conferences like the one we are hosting, what can we be doing to support the work you're doing?
I think
I mean, other than wearing your clothes, I mean, that I would like to do anyways, but.
I really feel like most importantly is any which way, we have to buy something which can last really long. Even what I'm wearing, like this has been, I'm also very happy that I stay in this size. It's almost like 10, 15-year-old suit, which I wear a lot of times. This is done by one of my friend designer, who is also based out of Bombay. So I really feel as a creator, as a consumer, we always have two choices. And one is always going to be more sustainable. And we all know it. And this is just about making right kind of choices every hour, every single minute. Like it doesn't take anything special than that.
Wearing something 15-year-olds requires more than just sustainability as a machine. You also have to be able to fit into it in 15 years. there's a challenge there for many. Anyways, but let me come there to both a quick introduction so that he knows who you are and ask the question. I'm struggling to see you guys.
Hi, I'm Clara. I'm from Germany. And before my question, and I'm sorry, but I must say this, I checked out your work and it's incredible. So I do really also just want to applaud your creative vision. My question is, no, but really, I mean, you should all check it out. It's incredible. But my question is, you spoke a lot about production and what we can do in production. But the way that fashion is marketed at people has a lot to do with ephemeral dreams and desires that we're chasing when we're buying fashion. And so I wonder, as a designer, what role do you think, or what impact do you think you can have on the way that people consume fashion? And as an additional challenge, how do you reach people who do not have the means actually to buy fashion that is longer lasting or to afford any of your pieces? How do you reach those people and how can they change their consumption behaviors in fashion? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for asking like such a wonderful question. I really feel when you look at fashion, any product, not just fashion alone, they are always, I would say, two lives. You have to, from the time the product is on the shelf, how it is being created. If it is created slowly, that's a great thing. In case if you're buying a fast fashion also, maybe it's a basic t-shirt, but how long can you keep it with you? And also when you're buying something, it is important to keep it for really, really long. It is important to wear it really long. In India, if I just tell you, now also at my home also, even those waist, the banyans which come, they end up becoming pocha in the end, and by the time it gets recycled at a place like, this is actually waste to wealth kind of economy within India. So I really feel like when you're buying even fast fashion, can you slow down the consumption of it? So this is something which is really important. And as a fashion designer, I really feel even at this forum when you're talking about when you showcase couture, that's how the fashion got created in the world. It was created slowly. And also it's all about making, buying less, but buying something which makes you fall in love with this. So that is something which is...
But how do we afford you? I think that was the question.
So
okay,
we do have also a ready-to-wear line which is also there right now coming up. So idea is why that was needed. I was asked a lot of times, you do slow fashion, how you are making it slightly faster, because idea is I work with when you talk about 45 million embroiderers or craftsmen in India, you can only employ at haute couture level less than 1%.
Okay.
You're talking about now lower portion of pyramid, they also need to be involved so that they can also become really, really good at what they're doing. So for them also to include them and also make the line a lot more accessible. So that's where we have done another label called A Few Rahul Mishra.
Okay. So you have a regular label as well.
Yeah.
Let me come to you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Balale. I'm Nigerian and I'm wearing a Nigerian outfit. Nigerian designers are doing exceptionally well. I'm sure you know, and if you don't, you should. We are extremely talented, but we have very little materials that we produce in our own country, and we're growing. We have adiwear and a few cottons. So my question is, aside from material and fabric, where can sustainability show up in the supply chain for fashion? Because I think it's something that Nigerian designers are really working towards.
So similar kind of question I was asked for in Paris also, because where there's no craft like India, how do you create? So a lot of times you don't have to necessarily create slow fashion. Maybe the beauty is because we have to face it. Zara, H&M, all these are realities of the world. And they are thriving, they are selling more and more. One of the biggest problems which all these companies also do have is also they are not able to sell all the inventory. So a lot of times, like a lot of creative designers, a lot of young designers, which I also see, they are collaborating with them to upcycle those clothes, create a lot of new things. So somewhere I really feel, first thing is all about identifying the problems within society, within supply chain, and within, whole system. And that is where the real solution lies. So that's why I say, sustainability of processes or sustainability of material is a very region-based problem. Somehow, if I say everybody start working with slow fashion, producing with hand embroidery, I think apart from India and a few more countries, it's going to be really not that possible to scale up.
Can you ask your question?
Hello, Rahul. I am Nare from Armenia. Gosh, I just checked. You possibly have pictured with every Bollywood star. So I'm definitely going to take picture with you. But because Samir doesn't let us have more introduction, I have quickly to ask my
If you
question.
take picture with him, you will also become Bollywood star.
Yes. Okay, so firstly, how would you connect sustainability with multifunctionalism, like multifunctional clothing? And next question is, what's next for fashion? By this question, I mean now we talk more about sustainability. How do you predict what we will be talking about in upcoming 10 years? Thank you.
So what are the other changes that you can sense?
I think on a brand level, I really feel like what is becoming really important is to have integrity in terms of you can't appropriate anything nowadays. That time is gone when a lot of brands, they appropriated some of the symbols of other countries, they created a logo out of those. Now that won't be possible. So for sure, there's going to be a lot more transparency in supply chain. A lot of times, like brands cannot just with power of money and social media, they will not able to just, create, I would say, a shallow story. So in that way also, there's major responsibility. There are many questions which are being asked, especially from the younger generation. What I dream of in 10 years, if we do not ever talk about sustainability, that becomes basic hygiene about everything what we do, everything we consume, everything we produce. So I really dream of that world.
We don't have to have this conversation.
Yeah, we don't have to have this conversation. That's like almost I visualize in 1960s, probably 1970s, nobody spoke of sustainability. So I really feel. So yeah, there are going to be a lot more conversation, I'm sure. And why I'm so hopeful, because when you look at younger generation, I think they are asking more right kind of questions, and they are making a lot of big brands a lot more responsible also. Although we might see the sales are going really high and all that, but I see a bright future ahead.
Final question this evening goes to you, Mohammed.
Yeah, thank you. So you have commented on your work from a sustainability point of view. I want you to elaborate more on your aesthetic philosophy. What kind of aesthetics you want to show in your work?
So I really feel like as a fashion brand, if you want to create something new in the world, if you want to create a new dialogue, your aesthetic has to be quite unique. So that's what we strive for. And often when we do couture, we try to think about art. Like, for example, my recent collection is called Superheroes. We spoke about insects. So there was a what made me wonder also, my daughter who's 8-year-old, she has never seen dragonfly in her life so far because she lives in Delhi NCR. She did not see dragonfly in life. And what makes me really think about the future, maybe she's going to discover first time a beautiful creature like dragonfly kept in a petri dish as a specimen in a biological lab in a school. So this entire collection called Superheroes was inspired by that idea. So often like fashion becomes a medium for me to start a conversation. Superheroes, we call them the insects because these insects, they pollinate 80% of food what we eat, 80% of crop what we take care of, and how we have been conditioned as humans. Like I'm sure most of us cannot even think about sleeping in the room where you spot a lizard on a wall. It's fairly harmless creature. Think about, when you see us, this also like, again, credit to, there's a beautiful poetry by D.H. Lawrence, written almost 100 years back called Snake. Where he talks about on a Sicilian hot day, on a water trove he had gone to take water, and there's a snake which reached before him. So before us is really the important phrase here. Everything around us, who we like try to keep them away, creep and crawlies, they all have been there before us. And they have created this world livable and sustainable the way we know. Because ultimately, if I say, by being sustainable, by honoring these creatures, by giving their biodiverse place without insecticide, pesticides, we are going to secure our future, not their future. They will come back any which way after we are gone. So this is the whole idea behind Superheroes as a collection was.
So your aesthetics are stories in the sense.
Yeah, always stories. So last season it was called We the People. So it was all about people who work on the collection. So, recently Selena Gomez wore one outfit where there was a portrait of one of our karigar. So his name is Nasir Bhai. So he has been working with us for 16 years. So he's a tailor who's sitting like a rock star in the center of the flower. So that's what she wore. So that's the whole idea, is like how do you, because ultimately it's all about storytelling, messaging. So.
No, so I think have a story, have a purpose, be good, look good, feel good. I think, and do it slowly. I think that's the message.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Thank you, Samir. I had a little chat with Rahul before he came in, and I told him that I had dressed for him today because when I was told that we were having a conversation about sustainable fashion, and I wanted to shout out Musa, who's from the Nigeria Bridge, who's here, that this dress that I'm wearing was sourced from women in conflict areas, in the northeast of Nigeria, who are running from ISIS West Africa, who are living in IDP camps. And my team were there doing some research, and we sourced this fabric because I didn't understand sustainable fashion, but I thought to the purpose side of what you do, that how about we make some women have an income? And then they designed it. And it was a loose, comfortable, so I can wear it for 15 years because I can grow into it. And then they beaded it by hand. And so just like what you're saying, I think it's just so powerful, the work that you do. And I've just seen some of your exquisite designs. And so talking about Nigeria-India Bridge and South-South cooperation and collaboration, you and I will have a conversation later about how we can bring Nigeria and Africa together. And we do have some incredible fabrics, hand-woven fabrics, and how we can create some magic that will be sustainable for the generations to come. Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you, Rahul, for the work you do, and thank you for joining us this evening. Please join me in thanking him. And I'm signing off for Raisina Dialogue 2024. Thank you.